This is Kentucky Afield Radio. This is Ron Rohde, Kentucky Afield's first host back in 1953. Now, I'm proud to present Charlie Baglan.
News you can use when you hit the dove fields next month, hot off the presses and on this week's show. In fact, you may have a copy already. We go inside outdoors to take a look at the all-new edition of the Kentucky Hunting and Trapping Guide. Dove season, turkey season, archery seasons, they're just ahead in September, and it's time to see what about the rules have changed. And if it's new, it's in blue. It's all next on Kentucky Afield Radio. Who's ready for a boatload of laughs? Give it up for Funny Sonny!
Thanks. I found it. A use for a life jacket. A pillow! Hey, I'm not going to wear a life jacket. I know how to swim. How can it hurt you? It's just water.
This chick's hysterical.
Funny Sonny, everyone. She'll be here all week. Maybe. Kentucky conservation officers remind you.
Your life jacket's got your back.
I before E.
What you writing?
Working on a list about my neighbor.
Oh, you mean like kind, considerate?
Oh, no, more like deceitful.
He's a good guy.
Good till he goes fishing. Then he's a despicable two-faced cheat. Says that bass was 12 pounds. It's 10 pounds at best.
Remember what Fish and Wildlife says. Fishing isn't about math, it's about fun. And say it with me. And fudging a little if you need to.
Kentucky fishing.
Let it make a liar out of you.
Charlie Baglan here, and welcome to Kentucky Afield Radio. And also welcome to that time of year when thousands of sportsmen, thousands of sportswomen, and sports kids are thinking about fall hunting seasons. Dove season is coming up on September 1. Also bow season for wild turkey and white-tailed deer. They open on September 3rd. The Kentucky Department of Fish and Wildlife annually publishes the Kentucky Hunting and Trapping Guide. It's hot off the presses, in stores, wherever you buy your hunting license. It's the rule book, if you will, and like any good sport, from time to time, the rules change. And when they do, the Hunting and Trapping Guide changes along with it, and those changes are highlighted in blue. On the show today to talk about them all, Kevin Kelly, who is the editor of the Hunting Guide. Also, Conservation Officer Captain Richard Adkins brings his perspective from the field. And on the phone is David Yancy, a senior deer biologist, and there is a lot of blue ink on the subject of deer. So we will start there. Editor Kevin Kelly, what's new in blue with the white-tailed deer season this fall?
Hardin and Webster counties are now Zone 1, and Marion County is now Zone 2. A few reg changes that affect some WMAs include Grayson Lake WMA. The December muzzleloader season is now open under statewide regulations. At Knobs State Forest, WMA, in Bullitt County, hunters should know that the youth-only firearm season and free youth weekend are open under statewide regs, and the one deer per licensed year limit on Higginson Henry has been removed, and statewide bag limits now apply. One big change at Big Rivers, there's going to be archery and crossbow quota hunt that starts the Monday following the October youth-only firearm season, continues through November 30th. That'll be closed during the 2-day quota hunt that starts in the first Saturday in November.
A lot going on with deer. Mr. Yancey, can you comment on anything Kevin just said?
It's a reflection of things are good with deer. The reason those counties became more liberal in all three cases is because there's more deer now than there were. In Hardin and Webster County, that's not necessarily a good thing. We're starting to get more than we want. That's why we went to a Zone 1 to try to drive them back down to a Zone 2 level. In Marion County, that's a good thing because Zone 2 is where we would like to keep it. If we could wave a magic wand and have deer numbers be equally spread across the state like peanut butter on a piece of bread, we would have Zone 2 everywhere. That's what we would like. Good thing, in Marion County, not so good in Hardin and Webster, but, we're going to try to increase the hunting pressure and try to drive them back down in Hardin and Webster. Just a comment about the Higginson Henry returning to the more liberal bag limit there. It kind of goes hand in hand with having to put the archery on Big Rivers under a quota hunt. Probably the addition nearby of Big Rivers WMA has caused bow hunters to shift off of Higgins and Henry onto Big Rivers, which is, I guess, a good thing for those that like to bow hunt Higgins and Henry. Less people, less conflict, less pressure but it created a problem at Big Rivers, which we're now trying to solve, of overcrowding, too many hunters on the same day, on the same piece of property, which we're trying to solve there with this new archery crossbow quota hunt on Big Rivers. So
let me ask you this, David. This is not our first time to ever talk about deer. And I have heard you say, going back maybe 15 years or more, that is where we would like to keep it. This is our population. This is the population for a certain county, and that is where we would like to keep it. Is keeping it at a certain level as easy as you might think it is?
Not really. It varies. Some places, some counties, some regions of the state, it's easier than others. When we say that, about Zone 2 and that's the sweet spot, what that translates to, that's around 20, 25 deer per square mile. And what we have found is, over the long haul, through past experience, is that seems to be the compromised position where hunters seem to be, by and large, deer hunters, mostly happy because they see deer, if not every time they go out to hunt, they at least see them maybe see at least a deer or two every other time they go out to hunt. And then also, that's where the levels usually of problems with deer eating corn crops and soybean crops in the summer, where those are at a tolerable level to the farmer, to the landowner, and also where the number of deer vehicle collisions is at an acceptable or a tolerable level to the non-hunting public. 20 to 25 deer per square mile is sort of the optimum point where everyone seems to be, if not happy, they're at least tolerably unhappy, or it's easier to do in some parts of the state than others. For example, from Louisville over to Lexington and from there north up to across the river from Cincinnati, they are not where we would like them to be, and it doesn't seem to matter what we do, we can't get them back where we want them to be because the habitat is just so good for deer and they're so good at staying out of sight. Maybe there's not enough hunters to take enough deer quickly enough to drive them back down. Now, down in the area around Owensboro and Bowling Green and Madisonville area, Henderson area, those counties down in there, kind of west central Kentucky, they seem to be remarkably stable. They tend to stay at around 20 to 25 per square mile year after year.
I'd like to bring Captain Richard Adkins in on the conversation if I can. He is a conservation officer, and he is out there on the front lines. And so is Kevin Kelly. And if you were, say, at the State Fair, or if you're at McDonald's, and you're wearing a Fish and Wildlife patch on your jacket, then you're going to get an earful. Why aren't you doing this, or why aren't you doing that? What are you hearing out there, Captain?
Well, I think for the most part around the central Kentucky area, deer hunters in general are pretty happy because they're seeing a lot of deer numbers, and the department through the deer program's working for a balance to try to be able to get the right number so the habitat can support what's out there. But from talking with deer hunters and being a deer hunter myself, I'm pretty tickled. I like to see deer. The guys are talking about seeing deer. They're seeing quality deer in this area. Of course, across the state, that varies. Being involved at the state fair, you do get a wide variety of comments talking about the deer herd and asking for more specific regulations sometimes in regards to growing trophy deer. Why aren't we implementing antler restrictions of some kind, whether it be so many points or by width? And I'm sure David can expand more on how that would affect the whole state and not necessarily just in one specific area where that particular deer hunter is wanting to see a big buck. As we all know, we'd like to think there's one behind every tree in the state of Kentucky, but that's not necessarily the case. But for the most part, talking with people about deer hunting and the numbers of deer we're killing, which I know And again, in the Zone 1 counties, we need to kill more deer. But for the most part, deer hunters are pretty happy.
Captain Adkins, you being in law enforcement, both of you are expected to know everything about everything. Do you get that often?
I think everybody in the department does, from the information center to law enforcement to the wildlife division. You're expected to know this stuff, and part of doing the guide is learning the regs and knowing the regs and keeping up with the changes there. There's a lot to keep up with, and not only for us but for hunters as well.
Well, public input, I don't know where the Kentucky Department of Fish and Wildlife would be without it. That's vital information, isn't it?
It absolutely is, and I think it helps too that the people who work at this department are hunters and anglers. They're out there too, and their buddies are hunters and anglers.
We're reviewing the brand new Kentucky Hunting and Trapping Guide, rules and regulations for the upcoming seasons. We'll have more with our guest after the break. You are listening to Kentucky Afield Radio. We are back on Kentucky Afield Radio. My name is Charlie Baglan. We have three guests on the show today shedding some insight on the just-released Kentucky Hunting and Trapping Guide for the fall and winter seasons, 2016/17. Kevin Kelly, the publication editor, Captain Richard Adkins with the Kentucky Department of Fish and Wildlife's Division of Law Enforcement, and deer biologist David Yancy. Talking about blue ink. We haven't hit everything about what's new and blue about the deer season. Have we hit much enough on the big rivers, wildlife management area in Crittenden County, Union counties?
Not to beat it into the ground, but one of the earliest things you're taught in college, wildlife management or fisheries management, if you're a student of that, is there's way more to it than just working with the animals. Wildlife management is people management. The day in, day out of it is trying to figure out how to parcel out the resource for the greatest number of people. Dealing with people is the largest part of what we do, no matter whether it's Richard, whether it's me, or whether it's Kevin.
A lot of wildlife management is really management of people.
Absolutely.
Have we hit everything that is blue about deer? I'm saying something here about youth quota hunt in Trigg and Lyon counties. Did we mention that?
Land Between the Legs, now that's a federal area. It's a national recreation area administered by the U.S. Forest Service. They're tightening things up down there. They've been more liberal on deer, and they're having to pull back and become more restrictive, reduce the number that hunters are allowed to take. It's not really as good a habitat for deer as it used to be. You can't have as many deer as it used to. And then at the same time that that's happening, that the number of deer has dropped, the number of hunters coming there to hunt, both from in-state and out-of-state, has grown because, as Richard alluded to, our trophy reputation is making people want to come here, and it's also causing Kentuckians to want to travel around and hunt other places. They allowed a bonus deer down there, and they're dialing that back in now, and that drew people. So for those two reasons, that's why that change is there.
I'm seeing here elk hunting. David, can you speak on elk?
That section is just saying that there's a couple of new limited entry areas for the elk season. The elk situation down there in those 16 counties in southeast Kentucky is rather different. It's not like deer hunting where, during deer season, if you've got a place to go, you buy your license and your deer permit. If you've got property that you can hunt on, you just go. Not so with elk. You have to be drawn in advance for it. They're not as widespread as deer. And quite frankly, there's more people that want to hunt elk in Kentucky than there are elk. We have to tightly control the number of people that can hunt.
The Leviza Fork LEA around Fish Trap Lake, that was a move with the future in mind.
Right, absolutely.
They're still trying to restore the herd in that area, but eventually down the road, that LEA will open for elk hunting.
Just like Kevin said, we moved some elk into that area from another part of the elk zone. They still haven't reproduced enough that it's ready for hunting yet. And also, like he said, put a buffer around Fish Trap Lake management area where those elk were stocked. And then the other one, it looks like the Tug Fork limited entry area, is to accommodate some new property that came open in the last season or two. It's more of that trying to manage the number of people, trying to spread the hunters out better so that they don't over-focus on one particular spot and burn it out and set things back.
Certainly. David, I was looking back to deer, if I may. I was looking at a couple of different press releases, and he was talking about record harvest for deer in this state, and we're now exceeding 150,000. But in another release, it was talking about 300,000 people deer hunt in Kentucky.
Right.
300,000. Only half of the number of hunters took a deer.
Well,
is that how you interpret that?
At first blush, it appears that way, but if you drill down into it, what you'll see, it looks like it's a 50% success rate approximately, but it's actually lower than that because some of those deer, multiple deer, were taken by the same hunter. In other words, there were some hunters that take 3 or so.
David, before we let you go, and I want anybody to chime in on this, Hunters for the Hungry.
Like Richard said earlier, we still need more deer harvested in the Zone 1 county. And, I mean, year in, year out, of the hunters in Kentucky who take a deer, of the ones that do, approximately almost 80% of the hunters that kill a deer kill one, and that's it. And that has been remarkably stable. That doesn't change year after year. It's about 78% of our hunters that kill a deer, they kill one, and that's it. And then it really drops off from there. The number that kill 2 is like 18%, and by the time you get out to like 4 or more, it's down to like 3% of the successful hunters do that. So anyway, what's important about venison donation programs like Hunters for the Hungry is that provides an out. Most people will say, well, I kill one because that's all I can use. I don't have the freezer space for it. The venison off one deer lasts us most of the year because we don't eat it that much, or et cetera, et cetera. You could still continue to hunt and take some antlerless deer, and even if you don't use them, you could donate them to Hunters for the Hungry.
Well, David, thanks for joining us. Let's hope you have a great season.
Okay, you too. Thanks, Charlie.
You bet. I'm looking at this, and, I have had pretty good luck of just going page to page. One of the best things, Kevin, that I see about this magazine, guide, is right here on page 2. It just spells it out. The 2016-17 hunting seasons, everything from deer to turtles. I mean, it's there from top to bottom. You got your dates, bear, quota hunt, small game. You go on the website, you can find the dates for anything, but you have to know specifically what you're looking for.
Well, I think the point of this page is exactly what you pointed out, is that we want hunters to be able to pick up this publication and be able to easily locate the information that they want. And the season dates obviously are paramount to what you can do and when. We hope people find it useful. We're always looking for feedback on the guide.
On page 3, and I just like paging through this because there's a lot in this guide that the sportsmen and women of this state may have overlooked or forgot that it's in there. Plus, there's some things to the design that you have added in here to make it just more user-friendly. Captain Adkins, I want to ask you this. It is the hunter's responsibility to know, and this is at the bottom of page 3, what type of license and permit they need. Do you get out in the field and say, well, I didn't know I needed that, or I got the wrong thing, or I wasn't aware, or you didn't tell me?
Well, when encountering situations like that with hunters, we always try to educate first off. If I'm checking somebody in the field, how long have you been hunting? Are you new to hunting? What's your level of expertise in hunting? I'm trying to evaluate all of that information while I'm checking this individual to make sure that whatever action that I take as far as a law enforcement officer is based on just good old common sense. Is this person new to hunting? Is that the reason they don't have the proper permit or the proper license? What can I do to better educate them for the future?
So what they're saying is reasonable. If it is, if they're trying to pull the wool over your eyes, it may go a different way.
Well, and that's our job to determine. Most all the officers keep guides, and the way they're laid out now, it's pretty easy to figure out what you need while you're out participating in whatever hunting activity you're doing.
Kevin, one of the things I was noticing here, I don't know how many years you've been doing this, but it must be just something new in the layout of the guide. For example, it says lose your license or lose your permit. It's in yellow. Replacements can be printed at no cost from the department's website.
This is a year-long process of putting this hunting guide together, and throughout the year, we get suggestions from staff, from the public, of ways we can improve it or things that they'd like to see pointed out more. And that box that you're referencing, lose your license or permit, that's the result of feedback we got. We want to let people know to utilize our website. All your information can be found there. You can reprint your licenses and permits. You can go back through your harvest history. It's all right there, kind of at your fingertips.
Here I'm looking on page 3, the HIP survey. If you're going to be hunting migratory waterfowl or migratory birds this year, some people will say, how often have we been on the phone and said, would you like to hang on after this phone call and take a quick survey? And we all know that's optional, but this survey isn't optional.
Last year we started trying to make, an educational push to get people to fill out the HIP survey. So people like John Brunges, the waterfowl coordinator, can have the correct information to help structure the waterfowl seasons. So this information is crucial for John to communicate with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife to help structure our seasons.
That HIP, H-I-P, that stands for Harvest Information Program. So they want to know about what you've been harvesting. And you need to answer these questions before, and you've got it here in the guide, before you're legal.
There's a number generated once you've completed the survey. The survey doesn't take very long, and there's a number of ways you can do it. You can do it by phone, or you can do it by app that we have. You can go online and enter into your personnel profile, your fish and wildlife profile, and you can go ahead and complete the survey, and it'll generate the number that you need. You can add it. If you buy a sportsman's license, this pops up, asks you to complete it, or if you're buying your waterfowl permit.
The Harvest Information Program, HIP for short. It's quick, it's easy, it's helpful, and it's the law. The captain is nodding his head to that. If our fishing report is standing by, and then more, harvest logs, telecheck, and what if you lose your cell service when you're in the field? You're listening to Kentucky Afield Radio. Baglan back on Kentucky Afield Radio. If you want to hear this show again, maybe there was something you missed, you can also share it on Facebook or find the link and email it to a buddy. Repeats of the show are very easily found. You can go to our Facebook page and find them there, Kentucky Afield Radio. Also on YouTube, search Kentucky Afield Radio. You will find all our links. Plus, if you're on iTunes, you want a podcast, just search for us right there. More on the all-new Kentucky Hunting and Trapping Guide after our fishing report.
This is Tom with your fishing report from the Northeast. Up on Grayson Lake, water temperatures are in the middle to upper 80s and the lake is clear as a bell. Crappie are being caught in the Clifty area in about 15 feet of water on minnows, grubs, and jigs. Catfish are active in the shallow parts of the lake on dough balls, and for the hybrids, your best bet is in the morning around the Bruin or Rosedale areas, and you'll want to be using topwater and flukes while they're in the jump. Up on Cave Run, temperatures are also in the middle 80s and the lake is clear. Crappie are active at night on minnows and jigs. Bass on Cave Run, once you find a spot with a couple of them in it, you might want to hang out for a while. There's usually a few more. What limited weed beds are out there are usually good places to start. You might want to check out Tiger at Skinny Connect, Licking River, or Little Sandy River for muskie, and there's no better bait for stream muskie than the double-out AC Shiner. Lots of good opportunities out there, so wherever you go, good luck and stay safe.
Hi, this is Kevin Fryer with your Eastern Area Fisheries Report. The smaller lakes in the Fins program, such as Milo Lake, Martin County, and Kingdom Come, Harlan County, were stocked with channel catfish this week and last week. Bass fishing fair in most area lakes with best results at dusk and after dark. Top water, spinnerbait, and crankbait finding some shoreline fish. Night fishing at Yatesville and Dewey Lakes producing good keeper fish numbers. Hybrid striped bass at Fish Trap Lake not producing much activity in jumps. However, trolling crankbaits and spoons in main lake areas, catching some good fish, 20 to 25 inches. North and Middle Forks Kentucky River, producing smallmouth in areas along. Catfish anglers using night crawlers on bottom, having some sauger mixed in with their catch on the North and Middle Forks of Kentucky River.
This is Eric Cummins with your Southwest Kentucky Fishing Report. Barren River Lake hybrids have been good trolling crankbaits and jigs early and late in the day and between the islands, and also good at night under the lights. Crappie have also been good at fishing under lights in 12 to 15 foot of water near channel drops and structure. Green River Lake bass bite has been best early and late in the day with big worms and jigs in 14 to 16 foot of water. Crappie likewise have been fair under the lights in 14 to 16 foot of water near structure and brush piles. Channel cats have been good jug fishing with cut bait. Muskie have been fair trolling in that 14 to 16 foot range near the channel drops or up on the flats. As always, good luck and good fishing. Be sure your life jacket's got your back.
I sail home on peaceful water.
Kentucky has some troubled waters.
Sailing in a sewer all the way.
Boaters dumping waste overboard when no one's looking ruins the day for everyone, fish included. So use an approved dump station.
Sailing in a sewer all the day.
Dilution is not the solution. Use your holding tank wisely, or hold it in. A message from your Kentucky wildlife and boating officers.
How was the wedding?
I cried like a baby.
Good thing you wore your life jacket.
They say you can drown in a teaspoon of water. Makes you think twice about that next cup of coffee.
Honey, I'll be outside washing the car.
Life jacket.
Before you break a sweat. Before your next sad movie. Wear your life jacket.
Put on your life jacket and help with the dishes.
Life jackets. You know when they're a stupid idea. You should know when they're not. Kentucky conservation officers remind you your life jacket's got your back. Charlie Baglan back on Kentucky Afield Radio. We're into our second half hour, and today's show is on the Kentucky Hunting and Trapping Guide. Now, if you hunt or you trap, you're all ears, and if you don't, consider it an insight on how wildlife conservation works in our state. Oh, it's nature, it'll just take care of itself. Well, yeah, to a degree, but with the lack of predators such as wolves and mountain lions, the hunters of our state are to thank in large part for keeping things such as deer populations in control and not darting out in front of us on the road. Kevin Kelly and Captain Richard Adkins are our guests from the Kentucky Department of Fish and Wildlife. They are in the studio with me, and we're looking at page 4 of the Kentucky Hunting and Trapping Guide, the appropriate licenses and permits. I'm in the field. Do I have the right one? Kevin Kelly, what's your sentiment there?
One thing that we got questions about were short-term licenses and whether you could use them for deer and turkey and all that. This chart on page 4 will tell you which licenses and permits you need.
The department has included all migratory birds and waterfowl into the same permit now, and that has simplified purchasing the correct permit for people in the field. Now you don't have to make a determination between a migratory bird or a waterfowl permit. Mm-hmm. Now that permit is comprehensive. You buy one permit and it takes care of you for whatever you'd like to pursue, dove to all the way to, waterfowl.
Is it too late to buy a sportsman's license and still have it be of value?
It's never too late to buy the sportsman's license. In my opinion, I buy one every year. If you're a multi-season hunter, the sportsman's license still is a benefit to you because of the fall turkey, the waterfowl migratory game permit we just talked about, the deer hunting tags.
Harvest log. Harvest log is on the back of any paper license or permit. Seems like that would be an easy thing to forget to do.
It's something when you're out in the field that you just have to tell yourself or remind yourself you need to do it. One thing I always do, and Richard probably does it as well, but always take the guide with you, or if you happen to be in a spot where you have cell phone reception, you can pull up the guide on your smartphones, and if you have any questions, you can refer back to that right then and there. That's always a good thing to do, just to make sure you're legal and you're safe and you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. But the harvest log, that's just something, instinctively you should do.
Hunters and trappers, and it says right here in black and white, must have their completed harvest log in their possession whenever afield during the current season.
And one of the things I think is important to point out is if you're hunting on your own property and you're license exempt, you have to make that harvest log, once you harvest an animal. If you kill a deer, you need to make a harvest log or use the harvest log out of the guide or print one out from the website to make sure that you're complying with that part of the process, which is filling that out and then ultimately checking that animal in and recording the confirmation number down.
That telecheck, you get a lot of, would you say 100% compliance?
No, I would not say 100% compliance.
Would you say you get at least 50% compliance?
Well, better than that. Yeah, most people out there are trying to follow the rules, and they want to help contribute to the department in managing the deer herd, and so they call their animals in, or they check them in on the mobile app, which is pretty easy.
If you have cell service in the field.
Yes.
And I guess that could happen. I didn't have cell service, and I got busy and forgot. Here on page 8, it addresses something just like that. Due to cell phone drop calls, a hunter loses a confirmation number. Should the animal be checked in again?
Well, yeah, I think if there's some confusion there, you want to go ahead and make sure you get a confirmation number so you can put it on your log, and you can always follow back up during normal business hours with the information section there that the number's provided here in the guide, and you can call and make sure that you didn't check the animal in more than once in case the call dropped.
Yeah. Something new on the Department of Fish and Wildlife website, I guess in the last couple of years or so, has been the My Profile option. I like that. Look, maybe let's talk a minute about the My Profile option, because that's one more thing. I've got to set up an account. I've got to remember a password. I've got to remember a login name. And it's not that at all.
No.
Explain.
It's just your last 4 digits of your social, your last name. It's a window into your fish and wildlife history.
And you already know these things, your name and your last 4 of your social.
Yeah.
This is something that's been accumulating over the past as long as you've been in the field hunting or fishing. Buying a license. It will tell you when all you did buy a license. Mm-hmm. It has every year you did. It has every year you didn't.
You can keep track of your preference points for quota hunts.
Do your Harvest Information Program survey right there.
Yeah, the HIP program number will be on there. There's just a lot of information there, and I think the department's made a push to let people know that that's out there for them. It's kind of like the central place where all the pertinent information that you need can be found.
September 1. Gentlemen, opens dove season. Talk to me about baited fields.
Well, I think the most important thing as far as dove hunting is when you arrive at the area that you're going to hunt, that you just take a look around and look the field over. As far as how the field was prepared, I would actually ask the host, what kind of field am I hunting over, and how did you prepare it? Where you get into trouble as far as dove hunting is blatantly putting a pile of corn out and having a dove shoot over it. If you prepare your dove fields using the guidelines of the county extension agents or using normal agricultural practices, most of the times the fields are legal to hunt on.
Well, it's not just hunting over. It is baiting so that you can attract doves maybe to take a specific path. Let's say you have 3 fields. You have A, B, and C. Let's say I put a pile of corn in field C, and then I hunt in field B, because I know they're going to start in field A and fly right across me to get to that bait.
That has come up in the past, and the person that actually prepares the field is the person that gets charged if it's prepared illegally. So if you're placing bait to attract birds, and then you have hunters that are in an adjacent field Then we make a determination through the investigation who all is ultimately prosecuted. There's 3 easy questions that most people could ask when they show up at a dove shoot. How was the field prepared? Is the field baited? And checking to make sure if the landowner there is available and talking to him, or maybe even the person that prepared the field. And then just taking a look around.
You all are very familiar with this guide. Is there something about it that really speaks to you, a page that you really like best?
I think at the back of the guide, the region-by-region charts that start on page 29 of the guide, that's something we kind of created and added to the guide a couple years ago. I hope people find it useful. We try to cram as much information about each area that we can, about the regulations in place there, the exceptions, other restrictions. If you're living in the Purchase region and you want to find a place to hunt there, you can just go to this one page.
Let's talk specifics. Let's say we are in the Purchase region and we want to go hunt, let's just say rabbit. You have all these choices here, 1 through 10, Ballard Wildlife Management Area, Boatwright WMA, Coyle Estate, Doug Travis Wildlife Management Area. And let's say we want to go to Doug Travis. And we cross over here, we see that is highlighted in a color blue. Mm-hmm. What does that mean?
The boxes on these charts are color-coded, and there's kind of a key up above the names of the WMAs that tells you what those colors mean. Blue is open under statewide regs, red is closed, yellow means there's a quota hunt, and if there's a number in the box, that means there's an exception. If there's an exception, go ahead and look toward the bottom of the page, and you'll see those, and they match up with the corresponding number in the chart.
Public lands, places to actually go. So, I would go rabbit hunting, but I don't have any place to go. Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, you do. And it's pretty much starts right here on page 28 and goes for 3 or 4 pages.
Yeah, there's over 80 wildlife management areas and public hunting access areas across the state. There's one close to you, no matter where you are in the state.
Purchase region we have, I turn the page, the Green River region, Bluegrass region, the Northeast region, Southeast region. There's a lot. I mean, there's a ton. Mm-hmm. It goes on and on. It's nice to have that in there.
We added that a couple years ago. More areas we add, and we will be adding areas. We may have to go and take a look and revisit and see how we do these charts, because there's only so much space on a page.
Right. Well, in response to this, are you seeing more use of public lands? Do you know?
I don't know.
Every reason, though, to use them now.
Yes.
The information is right there at its fingertips. Hunter education. Hunter education, get it while it's hot. Mm-hmm. Meaning get it in the summertime while it's hot and you're not doing anything else, and you get it in advance of all the seasons opening up in September.
Absolutely. And before I came over here, we're writing a column for this week, and squirrel season opens late August, so there are classes happening now around the state. You can find a listing of them on our website, fw.ky.gov. Go ahead and get that hunter education course out of the way so you're good to go.
Pre-registration has to be done online. So if you want to take a hunter education class and you find one in your county or a county next to you, you can't just show up, right? You need to go online and say, I am this person, I want to be there.
That's correct. You sign up for the class, and then you just go and you take the classroom portion of it, and then field day, range day.
Range day, that's the fun part. Music is playing, and then we will be back with our final few minutes to wrap up the Kentucky Hunting and Trapping Guide program. The guide is available wherever you buy your hunting license and free online, even on your phone. Just go to fw.ky.gov. You're listening to Kentucky Afield Radio. We're back with our final few minutes on Kentucky Afield Radio. My name is Charlie Baglan. Dove season is just ahead, September 1. Archery season for deer and turkey are just ahead on September 3rd. And unlike the annual Kentucky Boating and Fishing Guide, there is not a lot of blue ink in the Hunting and Trapping Guide. And if you're just joining us on the show, let me recap a bit of it. It's all outlined there on page 2. In Owen County, 601 acres addition to the Dock Rich Wildlife Management Area is now open for hunting. The Indian Creek track of the Clay Wildlife Management Area, you'll find that in Bath County, is now open to hunting. Other areas include the Revelation Energy Hunting Access Area, scattered all over southeastern Kentucky. That's worth a look. From the Department of Fish and Wildlife Deer Program, you'll find some changes in zones in Hardin and Webster counties. The 1 deer limit on the Higginson-Henry Wildlife Management Area in Union County has been removed. You can read up on that. Plus, you'll find some blue ink. If it's blue, it's new. Read up on the changes of elk and small game hunting here in Kentucky. Captain Richard Adkins and the editor of the Kentucky Hunting and Trapping Guide, Kevin Kelly, both with us from the Kentucky Department of Fish and Wildlife. We were chatting about hunter education before we went to break, but you can opt for the 1-year exemption.
Yeah, and I think it's important to note that it's a one-time exemption. It's not valid after this 1 year, so you have to go ahead and take that hunter education course.
Do you see that used much, that hunter education exemption? Is that rare?
No, it's not rare. The officers in the field see it. Occasionally, people get busy throughout the summer with other activities, and then hunting season sneaks up on them, and it does give them an opportunity to get a child out in the field and give them the opportunity to hunt if they didn't have time to get to the hunter ed class. But it's super easy nowadays. You can take the hunter education online and then schedule range time to demonstrate the range skills with a certified hunter ed instructor. So there's a lot of opportunity now. But yes, we do see that exemption some, but we highly encourage all people participating to better educate themselves through the hunter education program.
Hunter Orange, but we're getting toward the end of the show. Hunter Orange, the requirement for Hunter Orange, required for, I'm looking on page 13 of the guide. If you're deer hunting, modern gun, muzzle loader, you need to wear Hunter Orange. But you don't need to wear Hunter Orange for other seasons. When is it the law and when isn't it?
Well, it's those overlapping seasons when Hunter Orange is required that people get confused, and you really have to take your time in the guide. There are some exceptions. The late dove season is a prime example that happens later in the year, past the traditional dove season, the one that happens in December. I believe it coincides with the muzzleloader season. People are out there deer hunting. Rabbit hunters would be required during that time to wear Hunter Orange, but somebody hunting migratory birds like dove or even waterfowl are exempt. So you really have to take your time and make sure that the season requirements for deer hunting aren't overlapping if you're a rabbit hunter with rabbit season, and you'd be required to have that Hunter Orange on. That is a very important safety aspect of our job that we take seriously. Unfortunately, our officers deal with incidents every year where unfortunately they got shot or just taking a full safety approach to whatever activity you're in, making sure you're wearing a harness and a tree stand.
Yeah.
Those things are all stuff that sometimes people overlook, but as far as public safety, our guys are out there to ensure that people are following all the laws regarding hunting, fishing, and boating, and that they're doing it safely.
Talking about tree stand. So we're visiting a friend of mine in Jefferson County a week or two ago. He said, my husband just got this new tree stand, and it's the size of an apartment. And I'd seen one of those in the back of a magazine. It really is the cat's meow. It has windows in it for gun, and it has these long slotted window type things for bow hunting. You could put a TV in there, maybe a bedroom. Have you seen?
I've seen them. I've never been in one, though. You probably have.
No, I don't. Yeah, that's kind of a condo. I stick to the traditional stuff.
It is
a little mini fridge up there.
Yeah.
That'd be pretty sweet.
And you should have seen her eyes when I said, well, you know, They make a double-wide version of this. Anything else we should mention before we close? If something in this guide you don't understand or want further clarification on, what's your next step?
Your best bet would be to call the department and speak to somebody in our information center. You can do that by calling our main number here in Frankfort, which is 1-800-858-1549. I keep plugging the website, but the website's a great resource, and it may help answer your questions as well. You can find the guide on the website in PDF form, and wherever you buy your licenses or permits, you should be able to find them there.
Got to ask this one last question. Captain Adkins, you know fall hunting season's coming up, and you got to say, oh, no. I hope I don't see this. Or you can expect this one thing to happen that maybe you wish wouldn't. What comes to mind?
I really wish people hunting on private property would take the time to double check with the landowner about permission.
Yeah.
That's something that we run into every year. You know, that burden is on the hunter to make sure that property hadn't changed hands. Things haven't changed on the property, or somebody new has also received permission to hunt the piece of property, especially private land. So I highly encourage everybody to make contacts with the landowners on the private land which they're hunting on and verify that they still have permission. And if anybody new is going to be hunting the property, I've been hunting here all my life. Unfortunately, the property sold and they didn't know it, and they showed up to hunt, and then one of our officers shows up, and unfortunately, maybe we have to take some kind of enforcement action against them because they didn't
know before you go. Gentlemen, I appreciate you taking the time to come out and explain all this.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks, Charlie.
Again, the 2016-17 Kentucky Hunting and Trapping Guide is available now for free wherever you buy your license. Deer season for wild turkey, archery season for dove season coming up Thursday, September 1st. Online at fw.ky.gov. That's the Fish and Wildlife website. Or again, wherever you buy your hunting license. We're out of time. This is Charlie Baglan inviting you to join us in a week, and we'll go inside outdoors again here on Kentucky Afield Radio.